All right, let's get this out of the way.
Boys, 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 what do we want with boys? One's a bully, one's a brute, but some I think are awfully cute.
I love this song. It is so hilariously bad. Like, seriously, the singing and instrumentals are good and all. So what's wrong with it? It's the sexist lyrics. Especially this one.
Girls enjoys.
Oof. 'Cause, yeah, every one of them. Every single one on the whole planet. Seriously, this song sounds like it was written by a femcel. And so I just can't take it seriously. Do I think the song sends a bad message? Oh, undeniably. I feel like it's even worse considering the actual instrumentals and singing itself is so good. What I'm saying is, lyrics like this are too bad to be in a song like this. But I don't really care because this song is just so hilariously bad that I can't help but love it. The other reason I don't care? Well, the rest of the episode proper explains it. You see, the girls are having a debate on if they should let boys into their club. And to be absolutely fair, they do take it seriously. Bright Eyes even says that their group doesn't want to be seen as being prejudiced, even going as far as to explain what the word means to sweetheart, which, that's actually really admirable. I mean, I'd say you wouldn't want to be seen as sexist, but whatever, I get the point. One song later, Patch and Bright Ice go back to the clubhouse, which is actually an abandoned house, by the way, and they find two ponies taking some furniture away. And yeah, this is where it turns into a whole different episode. So after they are robbed, they prepare to defend their clubhouse and set a whole bunch of traps. And when these ponies come back, they're assaulted to the point where they surrender. In the end, they sort things out, and it turns out this is a family who is remodeling the house and planning to live there. And after understanding each other, the 7 friends in this family work together to remodel the house. And as an act of thanks, this family builds a smaller house to act as their new clubhouse. Finally, towards the end, they go back to the original point, wondering if they should let the older brother of this family, Logan, join their club. He only has a few lines in the episode, but this is the part that actually matters. And well, there's something about the way he looks and moves in this part that really impresses me. Look.
Logan, can we see you for a minute?
No, I'm not just talking about the blush. The way he moved away from the clubhouse just before Starlight opened the door. He's clearly nervous here. And I feel like this is the only time the show ever conveyed body language, let alone did it perfectly. It's honestly kind of a shame that he only ever appeared in this one episode. And yeah, in the end, he actually is invited to join the club. It's absolutely adorable and a fantastic message to send. Yeah, this is what I meant by how I don't think the episode sends a mixed message. Because the beginning and end actually send it in an adorable, validating way. With a bit of an adventure story thrown in the middle, which, let's be honest, I'd rather take that than an entire sexism plot, which is why I'm not mad about this switch up. Too bad this song is here, though, even if I get the point is that it's supposed to be deconstructed later. Anyways, this is definitely one you're going to want to watch all the way through. This episode is so hilariously unhinged. It's about Melody having an ego trip. That's just it. She's having an ego trip, which you think would annoy me. But the way they actually take her down is hilarious. Basically, she's playing the lead role in this play, and she's just constantly making everyone else feel like they're not as important to get the play realized. And so to try and get back at her, they just do that. They just show her how horrible it would be if no one else is there to help out. Which, I mean, typical moral to be sure. It's just, the execution is just so hilariously unhinged. You can't help but feel like Melody is getting her just desserts after she's been rubbing it in everyone's face for the whole episode. If anything, this is a classic example of how karma works in a show. You do it when the character is a jerk. And in the end, Melody is humbled and the play goes off without a hitch. Not much else to say. This is another episode that's just hilariously unhinged. Pretty much everything I said about the place, the thing, still applies here. Although there are some differences. For one, it's Patch this time, and two, she's being a prankster. So she isn't motivated by pride, she just thinks she's being funny. If anything, she's a jerk that actually manages to be likable here. Also, the song isn't bad either.
Lots more I can do. Hey, who's left our burgers and cokes?
Coca-Cola is canon in MLP, by the way. But wait, what is in those burgers exactly? Anyways, she goes about luring her friends into practical jokes, even going as far as to use the Scream movie logic 4 years beforehand. And sabotaging Bright Eye's science project tape. Okay, that was pretty bad. Also, making Melody, Starlight, and Sweetheart believe they're going on a date with this celebrity. Okay, yeah, that's also pretty bad. Okay, so how do they take Patch down? It's actually kind of genius, to be honest. They let her guard down with a classic practical joke, but then they make a more elaborate one, making Patch believe she's getting abducted by aliens. Okay. In the end, it's all revealed to be a prank to get back at Patch, which, okay, girls, I don't care what you say, that UFO is not made out of cardboard. Not much else to say, just hilariously unhinged yet again. This is quite possibly the most controversial choice I have ever made for this list. It's just for kicks. But why? Why is this a 9 out of 10? Let alone in the top 10? Isn't this the one with the love triangle? And isn't Ace a complete jerk to Starlight? Well, yes. Yes, it is. And let's get Ace out of the way first because, yeah, he's the only thing about the episode that I don't like. He's a jerk and I hate him. But even worse, it's actually out of character. Seriously, since when did Ace ever have ego trips like this? So, as a result, I can't really take him seriously. And as for the love triangle, it doesn't really bother me because they don't really focus on it. Ace's one-sided crush on Melody isn't really that focused on either. It's mostly about Starlight, who is at her best here. She actually tries out for soccer to get Ace's attention, but in the end, she learns to actually like the sport and even likes playing it. Why does this plot sound so familiar? Oh my god. It's Legally Blonde 9 years before it came out. Look at her mane. They knew somehow. But no, seriously, it does kind of remind me of that. She's crushing on a dumb guy, and she tries to get his attention by going into this passion she knows nothing about. and in the end, she comes to love and understand the passion. It probably also helps that Miss Hackney is actually supportive of what Starlight tries doing. Also, the song. It's quite possibly the best of the series. Unfitting visuals aside, Starlight's vocals are just incredible. Seriously, good work, Willow Johnson. It probably doesn't help that this song is literally called The Perfect Pair. I didn't even think this kind of foreshadowing was possible. Anyways, she tries out for the team and apparently does well enough to get in, until Ace made her nervous. Patch's words, not mine, by the way. Starlight even asked what Ace said, and Patch said, "Who cares?" Now, that is some good dialogue. In the end, Starlight has to play, and she wins the game for her team. Ace initially just storms off like a jerk, but thankfully, the episode does end on a nice note for Ace. He actually comes back to Starlight and congratulates her, and the two actually talk for once. And that's it. You see what I mean? I like this episode more for how it empowers Starlight, rather than the romance plot, which, again, isn't really that prevalent. And again, that ending feels worth it. And don't you just love that? An ending that makes everything else seem worth the payoff?
There. Now, if I hear one reference in that theater, I swear to God I will sell you on the shelves of every Target in America. That goes for you too, comment section.
Again, foreshadowing much. Anyways, now we get the best melody episode. Battle of the Bands is really fun. It's about Melody attending this music competition with her band, The Rocking Beats. But she unfortunately has to babysit her two younger sisters, Tingling and Jingling. Just go with it. As a music-themed episode, I'm sure you can guess we get a good song here, and we do. Sweet Music is probably my second favorite of the entire series. After practice, Melody tries to find someone to babysit them, but can't, and has to stay home. In the end, she can't take it anymore, and she goes to the competition and takes her sisters with her. Which you think would be concerning, but, well, as she said, her mom didn't say where she had to babysit them. Fair point, I guess. And Melody still at least tries to look after them. Hijinks ensues in the process, and Melody ultimately joins her band in the end, with the twins singing along, and they win. Honestly, there's not much else I can say. It's just fun. Although there is only one negative. It's a 9 out of 10 because there's a point in the episode that I feel like warrants a seizure warning at like the 7-minute mark. It doesn't last too long, but still, we gotta think of stuff like that. So, just keep that in mind. So the plot of this is that Patch wants an adventure, so she accidentally pilots a hot air balloon with Bonbon in tow. That's it. Miss Hackney has a crush on the balloon's owner, Mr. Cadoo, which is cute. So why is this at number 8? Simple. They make the adventure hilarious. Seriously, the gall Patch must have to even try to potentially steal this balloon and actually pilot it, it is just unbelievable. No, seriously, it does shatter the suspension of disbelief. but I don't even care because it's so unhinged. Seriously, it ends with the balloon popping and about to fall into shark-infested waters. And this whole thing started with Patch just going to school. Like, what even is this? Also, there's this weird UFO subplot where it's revealed to be 3 Pegasi and an alicorn? What? I'm more surprised by the fact that this is the only time we see Pegasi and an alicorn in the whole series. Well, hey, at least they end up saving them and repairing the balloon. What can I say? This episode is just so unexpected with every turn, it's hilarious. Except for one thing. Bon Bon throws the balloon's instruction book to chase a bird away. Really, Bon Bon? This starts with the girls practicing for a swimming competition at Lancers. That is screwed up by Teddy. As usual. As Teddy does. But hey, Lancer blasts him with a hose. Thank you. And then the actual competition happens and Teddy screws that up too. And throughout this whole thing, there's a conflict among the friends that Sweetheart is still inviting Teddy to her birthday. And later at the salon, they once again ask her to choose between friends, but this time she cancels her party. Whoa! Sweetheart, way to put your foot down. I know it's sad and all, but geez, congratulations. In a brilliant move, Lancer catches wind of this and invites Teddy on board his private yacht. He's rich, okay? Along with Starlight, Melody, Bright Eyes, Patch, Clover, and Bon Bon. And he sails them out so they can sign this peace treaty so everyone can put aside their differences for Sweetheart's birthday. This right here is why Lancer is the best character in the show. Yes, thank you. Making her friends finally talk it out with Teddy. In the end, it does work out and everyone gets along for Sweetheart's birthday. And she has a great time. So how old is she? 10 years old. This is more of the wholesome kind of good episode. The 7 friends find an injured frog and nurse it back to health. They grow attached to him, and in the end, he grows to be a bit too much. And for the greater good, they have to let him go. Sure, it's another plot you've seen before, and it plays out how you'd expect, but hey, I'd prefer something like this over something that's just outright bad. And hey, this is proof they can use old plots and make them work. And it's easy. They focused more on the adorable and cute parts of helping this animal, and that's all I can really say. It's cute. This episode is an environmental PSA, but the good kind. Bright Eyes is trying to find these birds known as the green-winged songbirds. She, Bon Bon, Patch, and Ace all go into the old woods to find the birds and get lost in the process. Also, yes, Ace is here in quite possibly his best appearance. He's not only prepared, but actually helpful too, after Bon Bon especially takes the brunt of the brutality of nature. See, he can be done well. At one point, they try eating fish after running out of food, even though they're ponies. How, herbivores? Okay, admittedly, this episode is just too much fun. It's basically them surviving in the woods, which is surprisingly entertaining. In the end, they not only find a nest of these birds, but they find out why they're disappearing. Logging. But not before an absolutely beautiful song plays. In the end, Bon Bon's diary is what helps get them back. With her reading, of course, because thank you! And the old woods becomes a protected site. Honestly, what I love most about this episode is how it brings out the best in everyone, even if Patch didn't have much to do. Bright Eyes compels everyone to go forth with her determination, and Ace is just helpful and actively kind all the way through. Bon Bon helps them get back. It's actually really sweet. And the kind of wholesome that can actually help me out. Wow, MLP Tales just straight up asked, let's try being the Goonies. Seriously, this episode is just a fun little adventure all the way through. In fact, everyone is here along with Ace and Teddy. It's about Starlight becoming a substitute teacher for the day. She struggles to maintain attention in class, and so she decides to go on a field trip. The trip leads them to this cave that they all get trapped in, so in order to escape, they need to build this contraption out of old equipment they find in there. My God, this is incredible. First of all, to actually see all of them on an adventure like this is very refreshing, because we get to see all 9 of them interacting with each other, and see how they all react to their surroundings, which makes for a great dialogue. Second of all, like I said, they all work together to get out of there, which is fantastic, especially when Teddy usually isn't on the same page as the rest of them. And of course, with Starlight leading the pack, it gives her more room to expand her character, when the idea is that she's not supposed to be Miss Hackney. I mean, this has to be one of the only times that Teddy and Melody work together for something. In fact, this entire episode is great dialogue, even in the class when it starts. Oh yeah, and they escape using this lesson they learned in school about pulleys, which leads to my third of all point. Everyone is at their best here because they all share the same fascination and excitement with the adventure they have. Like, my God. It makes the dynamics of some of these friendships so much more interesting just by being in a different situation. The only thing I feel like could have made this episode better is if Lancer was involved. And the episode ends with everyone escaping the cave and Starlight getting an apple. Classy. This is Anxiety, the MLP Tales episode. Wow. So everyone tries to go to this concert in town, and after an event on TV, it's revealed Clover wins 2 tickets to the concert. Everyone leaves happy but disappointed. Happy that Clover won, but disappointed that they didn't win themselves. Sweetheart's words, by the way. Which, to be fair, I think is very realistic, even more so that Clover feels the need to make it up to her friends afterwards. She gets her 2 tickets in the mail, and the episode basically does the plot of The Ticketmaster 18 years before it even came out. Again, foreshadowing. And no, it's not an outright ripoff. For one, the song does a fantastic job at portraying Clover's anxiety in wanting to both please her friends while also not wanting them to feel disappointed or left out again. Secondly, the way she goes about doing it is actually really understandable. Yes, she gets favors, at least from Starlight. Melody outright asks, and Sweetheart is a good sport about not going, that Clover gives her her own ticket. But it's more or less implied that she invited everyone off screen. And so when she's inevitably confronted about this, she confesses that she just couldn't think clearly. Well, no kidding, Clover. You didn't want to see your friends disappointed again, and didn't want to exclude anyone, and you had to choose on what friend to give the ticket to. Okay, so obviously this is a lot to think about. If anything, her anxiety mostly came from just wanting to be a people pleaser. And unlike the Ticketmaster, this episode makes the uncertainty come from Clover's own feelings, rather than everyone else smothering her. She just overthinks things, so it's not bad, it's just her trying to make the best of things. In the end, the friends come to a fair conclusion. They try their own name drawing, and Clover and Melody win. They almost see the concert, but they decided to return home and watch it with their friends. Which, nice, wholesome ending. Good on you, Clover. Seriously, the way the episode plays out is actually kind of comforting. Probably because I myself can overthink things. So, yeah, this one hit hard for me. Yep, The Masquerade, the fan favorite, the one that almost everyone says is the best episode of the show, is only number 2 on this list. We'll get to why, trust me. That isn't to say this is bad, because it sure is not. Is it good? Oh, undeniably. It's a fantastic episode. It's a fan favorite for a reason. So it's about the ponies attending, well, this school party where they all dress up as whatever they want to be when they grow up. Bon Bon wants to be a model, but she's not exactly confident in showing that. It's not really explained why, but I will. It's clear to me that Bon Bon's biggest fear is not being taken seriously, mostly because she has little confidence in herself, hence why she feels like no one would take her passion seriously, let alone thinking she herself looks pretty. Regardless, her mom encourages her to go anyway, and she actually does go. The party begins. It's worth noting that Patch is dressed up as a circus clown while she's there, and yes, she wants to be a circus clown. So naturally, everyone laughs at her, calling her silly, just as Bon Bon steps into the party. And so Bon Bon believes everyone is laughing at her, calling her silly, thinking her worst nightmare has been realized. She runs out in tears. Okay, now this could sound like jumping to conclusions, but it really isn't. First of all, like I said, she was afraid of not being taken seriously. In other words, she was on high alert about hearing comments like that. Like she's panicking on the inside. And again, they literally say it right when she steps in, while she's already in a panic. So, of course, naturally, not being able to think clearly, she runs out in tears. Anyway, she passes Teddy, who tells them the news about Bon Bon, which points for making Teddy helpful, and everyone goes after her. The next part of this episode is an adventure. Everyone finds Bon Bon on top of a cliff, and they prove to her that everyone wasn't laughing at her, but at Patch, as the event was being filmed on an old VHS camera, my god. And then Bon Bon nearly falls off the damn cliff, but Lancer secures her with his lasso and lowers her down to safety. Need I repeat myself? Lancer is the best pony in the show, again. And in the end, everyone goes back to the masquerade with Bon Bon feeling validated, and for the first time, confident. So is it any wonder why this is a fan favorite? It's about validation and admiration while wanting to be yourself. Best part, it is never too on the nose with it. The fear of not being taken seriously hits a bit too hard, to say the least. So watching this can bring back some important reminders, like loving yourself when everyone else does. My number one choice is probably going to be the most difficult to show, as once again it hits really close to home with a relatable issue. So please bear with me as I present my number one favorite episode of this series. Send in the Clown. This is most likely an episode you don't really care about. So why? Isn't this the episode where Clover performs the Nutcracker? Well, like most things, there's a lot more to this than you think. First of all, Meadowlark and Chevelle are back, and better than ever. The episode starts with Meadowlark reuniting with her family. She's now a famous celebrity, and Clover obviously admires her, but her people-pleaser issues come back to her in an interesting way. This time, she sees how many people Meadowlark is pleasing just by posing for the camera. So she compares it to herself, thinking she's nowhere near as good as her sister. And so she believes the only way she could be just as good as her is to be like her. At first, it seems like a classic moral setup, how you shouldn't compare someone else's success to yourself. But no, Clover's motivation comes more from wanting to please others, making them happy and wanting to be liked and admired herself. The song at the very beginning makes this very clear. Later, Meadowlark is at a dance studio teaching a bunch of other ponies, including Clover, to be understudies for the Nutcracker, Clover's part specifically being the Harlequin. Later, we see Meadowlark and Chevelle practicing together for the Nutcracker, which, okay, now I see why these two are together. They share a similar passion, so good for making their marriage not seem forced. Anyways, after their practice, the Harlequin scene plays out and the performer injures herself, so obviously this means Clover has to take her place. Later at dinner, Clover is obviously not feeling well about this whole thing, but Meadowlark and Chevelle try inspiring confidence regardless. Again, way better at establishing a reason why these two are together. Still, it doesn't work. Meadowlark believes it to be a simple stage fright case, but well, it's more than that. The whole thing causes Clover's anxiety to spike so high that she gets amnesia. Or so she pretends to have it. And once she's confronted about this, Meadowlark talks to her in a way that can give actual therapists a run for their money. At first, she talks to her about how she used to have stage fright and all, afraid to make a fool of herself, and how that all went okay when she started dancing. Okay, so first off, didn't we all feel that at some point? There's a task we really got to do that gets us stressed out of our minds just thinking about it. Then you actually do it and it becomes so easy that you more or less naturally flow into it. I mean, of course Clover would have that issue when she's already in an anxiety-fueled panic. But it's what she says next that really hits home for me. She reveals that she knows that Clover is afraid of not being good enough because of Meadowlark, but still tells her to be herself regardless, as that is all anyone really expects of her. Keyword being expects. Now, that is what describes Clover's character perfectly. She has unrealistic expectations placed on herself to reach a potential she's afraid she'll never reach. All so she can please the people she loves. And as a result, her anxiety spikes out of control. So she decides to sit it out at first, but she does ultimately decide to go anyway. And she performs as the Harlequin, and she performs the part perfectly, leaving her sister crying tears of joy, and the episode ends with applause. So why is this at number 1? Well, I just explained why. It goes into all the aspects and complications surrounding anxiety without needing to explain too much. They show it instead by basically saying, you're never going to know what it's really like unless you do it, or else your anxiety will forever control you. It's when something not only shows why you should do something outside of your comfort zone, do I feel like elevates this into the best of the best. So, that's every episode of MLP Tales reviewed. And overall, I think MLP Tales is a good show, even if it does have glaring flaws, and yes, bad episodes. Mind you, it does have some bad messages sometimes, a lot of 90s cringe, cheesy dialogue, and has quite a few characters being horrible to each other. Hence why it has a very unfortunate reputation as being the anti-friendship is magic. And honestly, I can see why it has this reputation. The characters can be rather brutal and unhinged to each other and themselves sometimes. However, I do feel like it's still worth the watch because in the end, what's important to note about unhinged brutality and mean-spirited behavior is that it needs to be worth the payoff. Which, yes, it does pay off, both in-universe and to the viewer. For one, yes, the friends can be rather mean to each other and themselves, but this never really drives the group apart, now doesn't it? In fact, I'd argue that seeing each other at their worst, knowing they will go back to being their best, is what keeps their trust in each other so strong. In a lot of the best episodes, it shows that. Even in the worst episodes, they don't really abandon that theme of seeing the worst so you can take the best. Even if it does go a bit too far sometimes. Even if there are hard limits you shouldn't really cross. And when that's the theme of your series, constantly pushing how far your character's limits are, you're obviously going to get that reputation. Whereas in Friendship is Magic, it has multiple themes per season, per episode. And it's not always about pushing limits. But hey, that isn't to say that this doesn't have its fans for a reason. In many ways, this series does push a lot of people outside of their comfort zone because they want to like the characters, and they still manage to like them despite it all. So hey, it stands to reason. You can like yourself despite your flaws, maybe even love yourself.